So, hey, I'm Luxmy. I use they, them pronouns. I guess the ways I'd identify is I'm a thummel agender lesbian. For a while I used the word queer, but I think lesbian is probably more accurate to who I am.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm 25. I use she, her pronouns. I like using she, her pronouns. I feel like it's very validating for me to be identified as more feminine. But I don't see that as my gender. I see lesbianism more as my gender and my identity. I have been slowly playing with the idea of changing my name, but for now, I am Sarah.
Hi, so my name is Michael Manning. He, him pronouns. I'm 34 years old. I don't want to say that it's like not joyful. For a while I found it stressful because I found it hard to accurately say what I felt like I was, if that makes sense. For a while I was like, well, I know I'm not straight, but then like, what else am I? So I was like, okay, I introduced myself as bisexual for a little bit, and I was like, well, that kind of works, but then I was like talking to people about it, and I'm like, well, that's also not quite how I feel about my experience. It's more like, I don't care about gender presentation. It's like, if I vibe with a person, that's what matters more than like how they choose to present themselves. So since then, I've just sort of taken to introducing myself as a queer man, and then if I know people for long enough, then maybe the rest of the details come out in the wash, you know.
I'm Ro, she, her. I'm an Indigenous ace woman. When I first realized I was not straight, I was living with a group of roommates that were all queer of some sort during my second year of college, and it was just a very open and welcoming group of people that I was able to let my guard down. And when I realized I was ace throughout these friendships, and told them, they were very accepting, but also like, yeah, we were waiting for you to figure it out so you could understand it before we told you what to understand. But yeah, it was very welcoming and accepting in the household, and it was great.
Queer joy for me has been quite a journey. I feel like growing up, I never saw queerness as even an option for myself. So in its absence, I feel like I was almost floundering, trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted out of my life, and I guess essentially my purpose in life.
Queer joy is getting to love unabashedly, getting to be yourself, always not feeling constrained in like what parts of yourself deserve love or like get to be shown to anybody. It's like, it's the most wholesome way of loving yourself and loving other people, and it's like loving them for all of the parts of them and all of the flaws and all of the whatever.
Slowly over the years and coming to terms with realizing I was queer and living my life like that and building community around that, I have found joy and authenticity in myself and being able to show up for myself every day and being able to be my true self and being able to celebrate who I am with those that matter the most to me.
To me, queer joy is a lot of feelings of existence, but also resistance. So much of our identities have been politicized and like debated even. And so I think a lot of my queer joy shows up in just being myself.
Queer joy is self-acceptance and being comfortable in your own body and in alignment with your own mind and thoughts and everything.
To go to a very specific example, queer joy to me, from my own experience, the time I felt it the most and where I was like, that is it, is when I didn't have to feel scared holding my boyfriend's hand walking around in public. That's the moment where I'm like, that's what it feels like and I think looks like to me. It's just that like, whatever that love comes out as, we build a space, a society, or whatever, where you just don't even need to have a second thought about it. It's, this is who I love, and I'm gonna show that to everyone.
So the first time I came out, I was terrified leading up to it. I thought that, well, I was coming out to my parents, so there's a whole bunch of like complicated feelings, and culturally, my parents had always said like, being queer is like a white people thing, and so there wasn't really like a role model for me to point to and say like, look, this person exists too, and I'm not the first or only one. After coming out, it was one of those moments of like, oh, thank goodness. Like, I felt so relieved and so much like this like energy for potential, I don't know, things that I could do, and I felt like I could be the person that I wanted to be finally around my parents.
As for the second time I came out, it was to my mother. We were in the car driving down a back road, and I had said something along the lines of, Mom, I have to tell you something. And she's like, what? What is it? And I was very nervous to tell her, but once I said I'm asexual, she was very startled in a way that I wasn't expecting. She said, okay, tell me about that, but also I thought you were gonna tell me somebody died the way that you brought this up to me. Like, you made it seem so serious, but it's just part of you, so I don't know why it had to be that intense of a conversation.
Coming out afterwards was definitely easier. I think the first time coming out was really tough and really challenging. I spent weeks agonizing about what I would say, and then now when I come out to new people in my life, it's a lot of just kind of like, well, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
I wasn't quite sure what was going on for a while, and then I was like 23 or 24 at the time, I want to say, so it was quite late, and I was doing like a community musical theater thing, and we were in the dressing room, like all the guys getting ready, and I forget how this happened, but like one of the people said to me, like, who was openly queer, he was like, oh, I would date you, Michael, and without thinking I responded, I would date you, John Paul. And he was like, Michael, you're making me blush, you can't do that, that's not fair, you're straight. And we all sort of laughed and whatever. And then like a while later, I was like, wait a minute, that wasn't a joke, I meant that. I wish I knew back then, because I would have just like told them we should date.
I think the first time that I ever felt joy towards identifying as a lesbian was once I finally had accepted that as my identity. It took me a while to really fully accept it. I think that I felt a lot of imposter syndrome. And so I think once I started just using that label and presenting myself more as a lesbian and introducing myself as a lesbian in queer spaces, it just started to feel more like myself. And from that, I started to feel more joy towards how I identify.
It brings me this like warm feeling when I know that I don't know, exist in a way that maybe is a possibility for another person, or when my cousins come out to me, it brings me so much joy and like warmth in my body knowing that I'm a possibility model for them.
The difference between me before coming out and who I am now, having accepted myself fully, I am just so much more confident in who I am, and I feel right when I go out. I'm not worried about like the vibe I'm putting off to people, because for myself, I'm not expecting a vibe to come back my way most of the time, so I just kind of am what I am and let what happens happen.